We all rely on farmers and ranchers, but farming is riskier than other businesses out there. Crop insurance helps farmers manage their risk. With crop insurance, farmers put skin in the game by paying premiums and shouldering deductibles. That keeps taxpayers from having to pick up the whole bill every time disaster strikes. Today, about 90% of U.S. farmland is insured, providing $100 billion in protection to more than 130 different kinds of crops. It's a testament to the program's success.
Hi, I'm Philip Brasher, Executive Editor here at Agri-Pulse, here today with Agri-Pulse President Sara Wyant and our special guest, Georgia Congressman David Scott, who in January will become the next chairman of the House Agriculture Committee. Thank you for being here, Congressman Scott.
Well, thank you, and thank Agri-Pulse. You all have such a legendary place in terms of the leadership and media for our agriculture industry. So it's really an honor to be on with you. And you know, I am really thankful because God has blessed me with this position. Absolutely no question about it. I'm very humbled by it. And especially the great diversity of the members of Congress that overwhelmingly elected me to become not just the committee chairman, but the first African American chairman of the committee. And I think that that is important. I recognize that honor. It means so very much to me. And I was just so excited about getting the kind of support from every angle, every different part of the Congress. And I'm very thankful for my friends in Congress, as well as the leadership. But most importantly, for my good friend, Colin Peterson. I think you all know Colin, who's been our longtime chairman.
Right.
Should get a lot of credit for David Scott being chairman of this committee. I've been on here for 18 years. I came on, Colin took me under his wing. He reminded me when he was sending out his great, nice endorsement letter of endorsing me by saying, David, I remember when you came on the committee, you were the only African American on the committee for several years. And he took me under his wing, and we traveled the world together. We did so much. And so I am sitting here as chairman because of a big helping hand of Colin Peterson. So I wanted you all to know that and how grateful I am to Colin for helping me to get to this point in my career as chairman. And I plan to stand on his shoulders, but I said, man, you're going to be standing by my side too with the challenges. But it's so important because we are at a very critical time in the history of our agriculture industry. And never before has the truth been brought out. And that truth is that agriculture is the single most important industry that we have. It's the food we eat, the water we drink, the clothes we wear, our shelter. It is all the basics. And on top of that, agriculture is the foremost biggest part of 44 of our 50 states' economies. That's big. And I understand that, have grown in it. And that's why I say it has long been our most important industry. But right now, I come on as agriculture, and we're faced with some big challenges. And I'm very excited to jump right into them. One of the foremost things that areas of challenge that we're going to deal with immediately is the issue of climate change. Now, why do I say that? Climate change has been bandied around like a political football from one side to another. But who suffers most? Who is most dependent upon the climate, upon weather? It's agriculture. It's our food. It's our entire existence. And we have got to bring in the scientists, the engineers, our outer space, NASA, all of our farmers, the large ones, the small ones, the family farmers, the differentiation, and get to the real meaning that we have to really meet this crisis of climate change. It could threaten our very survival. And right now, it is a threat to our food security. For if we don't get a handle on this with the right information and get it out of being this political football that's being thrown, it is our farmers who are suffering the most and who benefit the most from weather. And that's our existence. And so we want to get out and get that information and make sure we're doing everything we can do to know what is there. Let me give you, for example, many people do not know what NASA has brought to realization just within the past few weeks, that they have discovered traces of water on the moon. Now that right there lets you know that we need to all come together here with all of our expertise. So we're going to have the weather experts, NASA, we're going to have the scientists, the engineers, and everybody. And this will be our first hearing. We also have got to understand that the key to solving this is already in the hands of agriculture. No-till farming is needed. Carbon regeneration and sequestration is very vitally important. We have firms like Bayer and others who are doing ways in which they accommodate and reward farmers for coming in and helping to deal with the carbon overproliferation in our system. All that needs to be before our committee. And so that's where I wanted to be, and not out here dealing with somebody wants to do with fossil fuels, they want a Green New Deal. All right, go that way. But our farmers need to know the truth. Their future divides on it. We got hurricanes after hurricanes lined up like never before. We had almost one every week. We got fires burning like I never seen out in California and on the coast. Something is going on, and we need to find out what it is. So we're going to have that hearing. And then we need to deal with this issue of making sure that the wondrous world of agriculture is open to everybody, regardless of race, creed, or color. And there have been complaints about discrimination and not equity within agriculture, within the United States Department of Agriculture itself. I cannot allow that not to go unanswered. I must. And so we're going to have a hearing on justice for our Black farmers, the African American community, our Black farmers. We were the pioneer Black farmers. Our whole history, our whole heritage comes from agriculture. It was the Black slaves that picked the cotton, cropped the tobacco, plowed the fields, did all of that. My own ancestors, I grew up on a farm during segregation days. So we got to answer that and the charges of discrimination in the Department of Agriculture so we can get that behind us and out of the way. We're going to deal with that. And then the other issue is coming up that really breaks my heart. But we have got to sound the alarm about hunger in our nation. It's here. I mean, the statistics have said there are 17 million of our children who are malnourished. Is that correct? Malnourished right now. That's unacceptable. So we need to bring in our food banks. We've already been talking with a group called Feeding America, and we want to get them before our committee. We want to bring the food banks in. I work with them. This COVID-19 is pressing up against us. People not having money. We've got to stop acting and just playing around. I was so disturbed this past 2 weeks of going back and forth in Congress, and we got children out there not being able to eat, people without the money. So we can't go on like that. So we're going to have the food banks. We're going to have Feeding America groups that are out there. Our food banks are saying they're struggling now and can't have the food on the vehicles to get it, the infrastructure. And we also have to do this in correlation with how we're moving with the vaccinations of COVID. Now, here's what I've done already. We laid a kind of an infrastructure out there because people weren't taking the COVID-19 test. A lot of the people in the African American community were getting bad information. So what did I do? I jumped out, pulled together all my counties, public health departments, and then I collaborated with Sean Penn, the actor Sean Penn and his group called CORE, and we provided drive-through COVID-19 testing, and we were able to coordinate that with the food banks to do it. We even had Sonny Perdue, my good friend, who was the Agriculture Secretary, join me, and he and I were out there together giving the food as people were getting tested. Now we're working with the CDC because we're going to have to find ways to get people vaccinated. Everybody doesn't have a way to do it. And that's the same thing with the testing. So we're working with the CDC now, and we're arranging that probably by March, we're able to have mobile units with the vaccine because Moderna now has the vaccine where you don't have to keep it at such a high temperature. So we're working now, a low temperature, I'm sorry. So got to do creative things like that. Yes, ma'am.
So you've laid out a lot of very big and important priorities for you to undertake as chairman of the House Ag Committee. And we'd like to just drill down into some of those a little bit more, starting with climate change. Obviously, that's been a big initiative of the Biden administration, incoming Biden administration as well. Are you coordinating with the transition team right now and having discussions about how what you might do in the Ag Committee might be working in conjunction with other parts of the federal government?
In order for that to happen, we need to have the hearing so that we can know and get the information in as to what different aspects of our government are doing. What I'm saying is that this is a big show and it's room for many actors in it, but we need some place where we can come together and share information and share knowledge about what is happening. It may be that on our end, it may be legislation, and it may be funding. As far as the Biden administration is concerned, that is the executive branch. They will execute. I see my role as sort of at the beginning, and that's why I have directed my staff to begin immediately so that we could be a fulcrum. My whole point is this: our basis of where we come from is to make sure that we are given the farmer's perspective. What impacts our farmers? And and the part of that is because there are all kinds of thoughts and opinions and dealings with climate change. It means one thing to somebody, A, it means something else to B. Somebody wants to use that as a way of getting rid of fossil fuels, no more putting gasoline in your car. Somebody wants to run cars, but that's not where I'm coming from. I want to make sure that climate change does not impact our food supply and the security of our food. And it needs to get in that perspective. So that's why I'm trying to get the hearing out as quickly as I can so that we can help set the parameters of it, because nobody suffers from climate change and the weather like the farmer. In that, we've also got to modernize and quicken our disaster aid while we're trying to deal. My committee will bring in the scientists, it will bring in NASA, it will bring in the information, what's out there as it relates to our food security. I'm not concerned about the Green New Deal or any of that. I'm concerned about my farmers who are going out of business because we're not getting the disaster aid in time, nor are we getting this information about the seriousness of to our food supply, that the failure of us to address it from the standpoint of the farmer and our food supply is going wanting. So I'm sure that we'll be working with the administration, and we will be the conduit for whatever legislation, whatever appropriations we got is going to come. But for far too long, the farmer has been left out of the climate change. It's been too politicized. I want to bring it back home where it needs to be, because nobody suffers or impacted by our weather and our climate like the farmer who produces our food.
Congressman, can't to let you go without talking about what's happened in the last few days with the passage of this massive legislation, nearly 5,600 pages. It includes $13 billion in coronavirus relief for agriculture, another $13 billion in nutrition assistance.
Yeah.
And already Speaker Pelosi and the President-elect, leader and Minority Leader, Senate Minority Leader Chuck Schumer are saying this is not enough. There's going to have to be another stimulus bill early in the next year. Question for you is, are we going to need more in terms of agriculture assistance in 2021, or is this going to be enough given what has happened in the markets, commodity markets?
No, it's not nearly enough. And I agree with the speaker on this. Look, I think we got 13 million for commodities supplemental food program, the SNAP. That's not enough. And that's why I'm saying we got to get this hearing in. The quicker we can't sit in our ivory towers in our offices or up in Washington and not get the input from, let's say, all of our hundreds and hundreds of thousands of community food banks who are out there delivering it. They're not getting what they need. I've been in touch with them. That is one of the motivating factors for having the hearing. I want to bring those who are out there in the struggle. What about our processing plants, our meat and our processing plants in getting the food? What about the transportation all along the pipeline? We have got to look and see how we're doing into the financial assistance. How many farms are going out of business? What the future is. But we need to. But here's my point and why the hearings are so important. We cannot have a major validity to whatever we do if we don't have authentic information to base our requests on for more money. I think it would be very important. The food bank folks need help. They're the ones getting the food out to various people. And we also need to make sure within this pandemic that our school lunch program, how are we handling that? And how are we handling the school lunch program when we having people, the kids away from school, especially when that particular meal that they get from school is about the most complete meal that they get. We are losing 17 million of our young people right now are malnourished. Statistics are there. And so that's why I'm trying to get my hearing in here so that we will have information that I can share with our appropriations, with our negotiations and our next pass. But I will tell you this, shame will be on this nation if we don't address hunger and food insecurity right now. And it's going to take money to do it.
Congressman, you've got a really full plate with not only these initiatives, but standing up a lot of new members in a committee. You've got, I'm sure, some new staff. Tell us what you see as kind of the timetable for getting the new committee members lined up for the House Agriculture Committee, your staff, and when we might expect to see some of these first hearings that you're talking about that are so very, very important.
Yeah, and I am, well, let me tell you this. I have a wonderful staff director in Ann. I think you may know Ann Simpson. She is, we're so fortunate to have her there with her institutional knowledge. And you got to realize, Colin brought me along well. I'm 18 years there. I know many of this staff, and they all have worked with me. You know, I headed up the commodities exchanges and handled all the derivatives and swaps, cross-border, all of that. I also headed up the livestock committee. Well, it was that staff that's doing that. And Ann is already parceling out staff. We had to, much of our staff on ag has been put into the bills that we've had to pass and get out regarding the budget. Well, we got that done now. So we're hurrying up so we can get these critical hearings underway. The quicker we can get it somewhere, they need to look for leadership in terms of what we do relative to agriculture. That's my job. It's my job as chairman to make sure we're setting the page and the agenda. And so Ann is working feverishly, parceling out people so that we will have some of the staff working now on getting the climate change people. We already got the person from NASA, because if NASA's found water on the moon, That's got to tell us something. What committee needs to explore that more than the Agriculture Committee? Because that's what makes our food, water from heaven and the ground coming together. That's what we need. And then we got rural broadband, and we're already assigning committee members to try to get those together, because I tell you, we got to do something to save our rural communities. And we got to get broadband is the piece that will tie the urban and rural together, so we're not losing younger generation from moving from these areas. And that's where our agriculture is. It ain't in Atlanta. Much as I love Atlanta, we can't grow cotton in Atlanta, or tobacco, or milk the cows. I guess we could milk a few cows, but it's in the rural areas. That is the bastion for agriculture. And so we got to build up the rural area. And so that's important to get in. And then, you know, more can be said about bringing and making sure we break down any discrimination facing our African-American farmers. And then, of course, as I mentioned, and I think, of course, the food. So Ann is working now to get the staff. I got new members on. And of course, I'm already being referred to as Mr. Chairman, Mr. Chairman. And a lot of that is coming from my own committee members. I want to talk to you. I want to serve on this committee. I want to get on the ag. Can I stay on ag and do this? So, you know, I'm a members chairman, and my members are so vitally important. And I gained that reputation because of my years in experience as chairman of the Senate Rules Committee here in Georgia. I was the first African American to be chairman of that committee, but I learned a lot. And if you got a good working committee and who feel that they can manifest their destiny within your committee, you can do it. And so we have that. But also, I don't stop there, because I have some great friends on the Republican side. And Thompson, as you know, from Pennsylvania, is a good guy. We traveled together. He's the most senior over there now. He's the ranking member. I came up with Mike Conaway. And as you all know, we have a bipartisan tradition on that committee. And I aim to keep it that way, because that's the way you get things done. And I always use that as an example, as you all did your story on, when I got that $80 million for those land grant African American 19 colleges and universities. I couldn't have done that without Republicans being a partner. And we lift that up as being one of the most significant bipartisan deals. At no time has African American colleges and universities got $80 million, but it was done by Democrats and Republicans working together. And that's the spirit I will carry. And I think people know my reputation of that, because what's important to me is that our agriculture committee is successful in helping to make sure we maintain ourselves as the nation with the absolute best and foremost agriculture industry.
That's a great note to wrap up on. You've given us a tremendous amount to think about here, and we're looking forward to a very historic year coming up with the committee. And it sounds like you intend to hit the ground running in January. So,
Yes.
Mr. Chairman, I can't call you that now. Thank you again for being with us.
I got a great team working with me, I tell you that, and that's what's going to make our committee great.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Thank you.